No, appreciate you reaching out to me, Miguel. And yeah, this is a huge topic. And matter of fact, it's been a huge issue as well as a huge topic of recent. So maybe recently you've had a push around inclusion for minorities in certain areas, especially the financial sector, because they've been excluded for so long. We've been excluded for so long. Doesn't make a difference if you're black, brown, yellow, whatever they want to classify us as. We've been excluded for so long. And if you think about American wealth, how is it built? Yeah, businesses, but real estate. If you look at how much of our economy is driven by the real estate industry, it's a huge sector. If you've had an economics class, yeah, they point that out. I remember when I had it, like real estate was the main driver, and I think it was like over 7 different industries are connected directly to real estate. So you look at it in the world, who else can buy and sell real estate? The common person, like you can in America. You're not going to find too many countries, if any, to where access to ownership and leveraging land is the same. So when we look at this opportunity, why is it important? Well, if wealth is built from it, how many opportunities do you get a chance at wealth if you're not, let's say, at the table, not even just on the playing field, but at the table? And then if you look at from an industry standpoint, if a lot of good money is made, 6-figure money is made in this space, it puts you into this upper 5% of income in the markets. That means we're missing opportunities. And if you think about real estate from the standpoint of it is simply where people live, work, and play. Well, if you think about the design of real estate, if the people that are designing the real estate and controlling the transactions don't look like the people that live and work and play using those facilities, who is it really going to be designed for? What benefit is it going to be designed for? So you have one of the wealth builders from both an employment standpoint and ownership standpoint, being entrepreneurial, and an economic driver, the main economic driver of the country. You would have to think that, okay, so we need to be in the room and seated at the table for us to have a huge opportunity. Now, this from a banking standpoint, from my field, commercial lending and investment banking are the two most powerful bankers that are in the space. Commercial bankers deal with a lot of real estate transactions, and it's really it's a rule book, but how flexible the rule book is like no other in the banking side. The investment bankers move much more money at much larger scale. And when they move money, when they move capital, how it is leveraged and invested is much different as far as scale is concerned in the banking space. So I've told folks, young people that I get a chance to talk to, I've said, hey, look, you got to look at these different opportunities where you want to be in your career, and that needs to be based off of your skill set and really your passion and what your purpose for. If finance is one of those spaces, you got to start looking at what does that mean, and don't look at banking as the old white guy's profession, because now they have to let some of us in. Look at it as, well, it's a reason why it's only been older white men in the field for so long. It's this clutch that they got on this power and influential space that they don't want to let go. Well, you got to do something to make the hands open up and for you to get the opportunity to come into that. And this kind of ties into, and I know when we talked about the READY program, the Urban Land Institute's READY program, so real estate diversity and inclusion, where they wanted to focus on, or we, because I'm the chair of the committee now, wanted to focus on creating more minority developers, and minority being classified by both race and gender. And it's this idea of what are the different ways that we can at least plant the seed in someone's mind, no matter what age that they are going through the program. Talk to them about what real estate development looks like, what it means to be a developer, and then ask them a hard question. Who do you want to be when you grow up? So if you want to be a developer, one, you got to figure out that it fits you. Two, you got to figure out what kind of developer do you want to be, because the real estate development is very diverse. Commercial real estate is very diverse. You all know that it's shaped by asset classes. Some folks only play with a certain asset class. Some folks play across multiple asset classes. Developers are the same way. Some play with one type of asset class. Some play with multiple types of asset classes. And it's a reason why, because it's some nuances with all, and you got to figure out how to build out your skill set to be successful. I would highly recommend for you all at your age, explore what you're interested in. And later on this evening, I'll talk about growth and development. I'll talk about how I got to my role in banking and things that you can do that if you do at a younger age, the runway that you have on life in your career can literally change the trajectory of your life and your family's life. But it takes discipline and commitment. So with that being said, I'm going to stop. I know we have a Q&A session, and you guys got to forgive me. I just got off the phone talking about deals, so I got a level of energy that I bring to the conversation that you all are catching. This I'm not down yet. I'm still kind of doing this right now because the deals that we were talking about were so relevant to this conversation, because today I've been having a lot of conversations with minorities in the city and outside of the city around providing capital to businesses and then also real estate transactions. So I said, oh, this must be getting me warm for the conversation tonight. So I'll stop right there, Miguel, and I'll let you help shape and steer the conversation. I'll talk about my journey, but is it anything that we want to talk about real estate right now? And I don't mind if we do a Q&A right now, because this is for you. This isn't for me just to be talking. This is for you all. So I want you all to be engaged. Use the chat to ask questions. I'm sure you all are technology savvy. So that way we can make sure that I address what's on your mind, so you all get the most out of it.
Yeah, no, it's I'll start off real quick. You mentioned with the OLI and how you're doing getting minorities into becoming developers. I mean, that's such an interesting aspect of how you're going to involve the community and CRE. If you don't mind, could you just go a little bit more into details about all of that? Because I mean, why did you guys decide to do development versus banking or whatnot?
So Urban Land Institute is an organization that is full of developers, and it's a national organization. And so the Real Estate Diversity and Inclusion program was created. And here in St. Louis, it was part of being conceptualized and launched by Kelly Annis, Erica Henderson, and Vita Jeffrey. And once the program, got off the ground, I found out about it. And, I asked what was the focus, and they said, well, we want to create an environment that's conducive for people to discuss discuss development and kind of get more immersed in it, and not a school program, not a certification program, but literally a multi-week program that exposes people to the different facets of development. So you have conceptualization, you have your site selection, you have modeling out, financially modeling out the project, and then you have getting your capital and whatnot. So really taking people through these phases of development, regardless of what experience level that they had, to expose them to it and then see what they would do with it. When I got involved, I got a chance to speak to the class around finance. And I got asked to join the ULI Management Committee, and the Ready Committee was one of the committees that I wanted to focus on, because when I spoke to the class, I realized that they were all over the place. Some were really just talking about flipping houses. Some were talking about, well, we want to revitalize North St. Louis City. And that's a big difference from flipping houses to revitalize the North St. Louis City. Some wanted to build, what was one project? A pop-up shop. And my team, because not only did I speak to the class, the next year I went through the class so I could feel organically what it felt like. And when we did that, I said, all right, so this isn't going to teach folks how to be a developer. I got a graduate degree in urban planning and development. That didn't teach me how to develop. It taught me about urban planning and development, and only a small piece of the iceberg was I able to chip away in 3 years of class. So we started talking about what does the second iteration or the refinement of Ready look like. So maybe like if you think about your classes, a Ready 101 and a Ready 201, what does that look like? And in the beginning, it was really around this exploring how do we incentivize this demographic to get interested in development and provide a resource. Now that we've gone through 3 cohorts, now it's evolving around to, okay, so how can we create opportunities for people to intern or be mentored so they can actually become a developer. So we're having some conversations around the Ready 201 model because you don't need a 4-year education to be a developer. You'll find that if you meet a lot of developers that are dealing with commercial real estate or residential real estate, some of them didn't even start from like an accounting or finance background. It's a lot of attorneys that I know that are developers. What one guy was a political science major and history major. I'm like, how'd you end up doing development? You know, those degrees that you got aren't really money making degrees. So maybe he figured out that he went to school for the wrong thing and got immersed in something else. But that's really where the program was, the brainchild of the program, and not only the what, but the why. And then figuring out the how is something that we're still doing now.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's amazing. I mean, with the creativity that can be made with development, I mean, that's an amazing part. You touched on urban planning development. I mean, some people may not know what that means. If you don't mind, could you sort of explain what is urban planning development?
Okay, so the program that I went through, because my undergrad and graduate degree are from St. Louis University, graduate degree in urban planning and development. So it's the function of planning. Planning has a whole bunch of different perspectives: community development planning, economic development planning, transit-oriented planning, environmentally friendly planning. What did I say transit? Yeah, I said transit-oriented planning. So you have all of these different facets of planning. My focus was community and economic development. So out of this big planning world, the first time that I went to the American Planning Association conference, my professor was there, and I ran into her on the street, and she's like, how's it going? I said, I literally have brain overload. I said, because I'm sitting in these sessions, and I'm thinking to myself, how are you going to learn all of this? It's no way you're going to be able to learn all of this so you can wrap your arms around it. She said, no, that's not what you want to do. You want to figure out what area or discipline in planning do you want to focus on based off of what you're gifted at. And I said, oh, well, that's easy, community and economic development. She says, okay, well then that's the path forward. So that was after my first year in the program. And I quickly realized, like, we covered land use, zoning, real estate law, the policy around planning, and then we also, got into the nuts and bolts of some finance, commercial real estate, residential real estate, and negotiation. So, a planner in essence is like the ultimate politician. Very seldom do they, and a developer is as well too. Very seldom do they use all of their own money. And most of the time, it's a whole bunch of people that they have to influence to be able to do what they want to do. So it takes a certain level of savvy to be able to do that. I would say with commercial real estate, you got to figure out what do you want to do in regards to commercial real estate. So I have a fraternity brother that he did portfolio management for Cushman Wakefield. That's all he did was look at spreadsheets, take financial data, put it into the spreadsheets or whatever system that they use, and push out reports. I know some developers that the excitement of the deal. So now, it might be a general contractor. Now they also have a development arm of their company as well. So it's different ways that you can get there. Some of them have urban planning and development backgrounds or education. Some of them don't, but it's a good foundation, I would say, because you got to learn how to look at the community like an ecosystem, and the ecosystem is going to have players in it. It's going to have gaps in it. So the economy of a market is built up of actors in the ecosystem. Understanding how they fit or don't fit together is important if you're going to be playing around in real estate. Too big of an investment for something to go wrong if you didn't do your due diligence.
Yes. It's so amazing. I mean, it's amazing that you're doing this and being a leader for ULI in St. Louis. I've had a chat with, I don't know if you know him, but James Mueller, who is the Young Leaders Group. I had a conversation. I mean, he's like, man, David is such a brilliant guy. He's very smart, and like, he's the top guy that when talking about this. But how did you become the current David Noble you are today? Like, why did you decide to go into commercial real estate, going into university, or maybe as you're growing up, what was that key aspect that you wanted to really dive into all of this?
Well, how much time do we have, Miguel? Because my path here is not the typical path. So I want to be real with you all because we're talking about life now. I have three sons. One's 31, one's 24, just turned 24. So one just turned 31. The one that's 24 is getting ready to turn 25. I have one that's 19, getting ready to turn 20. I'm 49 years old. So that means, and I'll be 50 this year. So that means my first son I had when I was 19. I was not trying to have a son when I was 19. Academically, I was an athlete, so I was a nerd athlete growing up. So I had enough book smarts to where I could have got an academic scholarship, but I was so focused on playing sports, football and basketball, better at football than I was at basketball. Dislocated my elbow my freshman year, and my mother never let me play football again. She wouldn't sign a release papers. I couldn't play basketball worth a quarter. I would shoot from half court and throw the ball over the goal. Folks thought because I was black I could play basketball. That wasn't the case. Now I can knock the top of your head off playing football, but I couldn't play basketball. And literally, the coach, the YMCA coach, me and his son were good friends, and he's like, "Son, you don't know how to play?" I'm like, "No, sir." So taught me how to play. In high school, I was so focused on playing sports. My father was no longer in the household. He actually went to jail when I was 14 for 10 years. I didn't see him again until I was like 26. So that guidance that I could have had from my father wasn't there. My mother was so busy trying to manage the household that I mean, it just is what it was. And I actually got offered a partial scholarship from St. Louis University. Well, that was academic; it had nothing to do with sports. The university that's now Truman State, Truman, they offered me a partial academic and sports. I didn't want to go up there and play basketball. I want to play at Syracuse or Duke or something. Well, I'm 5'10". So yeah, I had to be really good to play basketball. I didn't know who I was, you all. So I say that for a reason. So I worked jobs because I needed to take care of my son. So I sold cologne and perfume. like on Kings Highway and Natural Bridge, if you know where that's at. I did Primerica, which was a financial service company, but I was really too young for people to take me serious, and it wasn't a steady check. Did telephone sales, ended up doing collections, did that for 6 years total, worked at a Hardee's, and then also in high school, my uncle was a real estate appraiser. So what really opened my mind to real estate was my uncle was a real estate appraiser, and I had to go work with him in the summer to get out, to stay out of trouble, because I could type really good. So I could type up reports like I mean, he was like amazed, like, oh, you can type that fast? I'm like, yeah. So I'm typing up these reports and I'm looking at, wait a minute, this is about houses. And then these are comparables and, oh, it's 3 approaches to value: income, market, and cost. So I started asking them questions about the appraisals. Now, this is in my junior year, that summer. My uncle tells me that, all right, so you don't know what you want to do, but you caught on to this. He says, so I'm going to start taking you on calls with appraisals. So I had to get dressed. He was appraising houses in Ladue and Clayton. So then we start doing that, and he told me, so when you get out of high school, this is what we're going to do. He says, you're going to take the appraisal test. You'll pass because you're learning how to do appraisals now. He says, and then you're going to come work with me, and we're going to make some real money. And I was like, okay. My uncle gets killed in a car accident my senior year in the middle of basketball season. So that literally threw me into a whirlwind because I looked up to him, and this was my plan after high school. College was great, but I was thinking about, no, I want to make money. So college for me, I was taking honors courses. I was really tired about learning about white people, to be honest with you. In history and English, I'm like, yeah, I know about classical music. Yeah, I know history and all of that. It has nothing to do with life outside of high school. So that kind of threw me in a whirlwind. Then I have a child when I'm 19 and trying to find myself. End up doing collections, like I said, and then come across a program around real estate investment. One of these programs that you all are probably seeing where you stay up late at night and they're going to tell you how to buy houses, no money down, without your own cash. Well, I went to a seminar. Went to the seminar. My mother actually paid for me and my sister to be able to go. And young man, I can tell you that when I went to the seminar, it was like the light bulb went off, and I realized I love deals. I could literally understand how to structure a deal based off the concepts and principles that they taught. I didn't go through the second courses. I just read the books from the first one and listened to the tapes. I buy 9 houses without my own money, but I didn't buy houses to flip. I bought houses to hold for cash flow. I didn't figure out the whole model. I knew I needed to manage the property, but I didn't want to manage the property. I knew I needed people to work on the property. I was even doing work on the properties, but I was making mistakes. Ended up losing all 9 houses. But in the course of that, I realized that the mortgage company that I was working with was making a lot of money off of me, and that I needed to know how the money got controlled. So then I go into the mortgage space. First time I go into a full commission job. Now I'm still only working to make money. I haven't figured out what I'm purpose for. And you're gonna hear me say that a couple of times. You gotta let your passion lead you to your purpose, because it's going to be a gift that you have that'll open up doors for you. And the faster you find it, the better, and the faster you'll be on a track to success. So I'm doing mortgages, and with my experience in collections, I have the ability to sit down with somebody, and you can have bad credit. You can, be trying to figure out something financially. I didn't know how solution oriented I was at a young age. Like I could hear you talk out a problem and then design a solution. And I didn't know that was a gift that I had. It was just like, all right, this is what I do. So, go through that, go through learning the mortgage business. And then the bottom falls out in 2008 out of the mortgage industry, the housing industry. I lose half of my income during that time. House gets foreclosed on. Got to go through rebuilding myself. But end up going to a nonprofit to work. That nonprofit gives me a skill set around being able to work with people even more intensely. And I get an opportunity to go sit down with a CEO and chairman of a bank because they've heard about me and heard about my ability to get certain loans done, and he wants to know how because they have a problem that they're trying to solve. A 1 hour meeting turns into a 2 hour meeting, and at the end of the meeting, he's offering me a job. Now, how did I find my way there? When I was at the nonprofit, I realized that I'm originating mortgages and I'm in constant hunter mode, trying to make an income. And this isn't a career. This is a job right now to me. And I knew I was meant for something more. So I must have found something that told me about figuring out what my gift was. And then I had some men that I met that said, "Hey, look, you're very talented. You need to figure out what you're supposed to do." So I said, "I like helping people, and I like real estate. So I like this idea of people in place." So I started looking for programs that matched that because I knew I needed to go back to college. I knew I needed to go to college because I went to junior college and stopped going because I got bored with it again. So I knew I needed to go back to school. Just so happens that SLU had urban planning and development program, and it was a bridge program. So my undergrad is in organizational studies with a minor in real estate and community development, graduate degree in urban planning and development. So if you look at me now, you can realize that, oh, that was perfect. That was perfect for me because it gave me somewhere to harness my energy. And then I figured that my purpose was around people in place. So as I was going through school and I get this opportunity at the bank, I get into the bank. I'm doing mortgages. They're not doing mortgages the way that I was able to do them. I resigned in 6 months. The CEO and chairman calls me and does an exit interview and offers me another position. That exit interview was Friday. Monday, he called me and asked me to meet him at a country club because he wanted me to consider another opportunity. I never been to a country club in my life, gentlemen. Never had I sat foot in a country club. He offers me a different role. That different role, it was community development officer, more stable pay. When I got that opportunity, I quickly realized that I was in my wheelhouse. It was like being let off the leash, so to speak. So my growth started accelerating. Then I started running into mentors. And one of my mentors told me that, David, I need you to focus on 3 things: your conduct, your conversation, and your character. 4, and the 4th being humility. So stop chasing opportunities, sit still, and your conversation and conduct and humility will show people your character, and you'll be surprised the doors that it opens up for you. Well, I focused on that. Those doors started opening up. I get my undergrad in 2015. I get my graduate degree in 2018. I get an opportunity to go to another bank as community development and CRE officer. So I was at Midwest Bank Center as a loan officer, mortgage loan officer, and community development officer. Go to Midland, I get an opportunity to get advanced because I'd capped out. I'd capped out at Midwest Bank Center. They asked me what I wanted to do. I said, I want my boss's job. And I didn't stutter. And it wasn't disrespectful, but they knew that I was quickly outgrowing the bank. And when I got the opportunity at Midland States Bank, I came in as the community development CRE officer, then got a chance to turn around and move into actually designing a role. So my job that I have now, one of them, I created the job. It wasn't a such thing. I created the department, created the job, created the strategy, the tactical plan, created products, and it put me in a position that most of my peers weren't in because of that exposure. So now you fast forward, and as of last year in May, I was asked to become the market president for St. Louis. I am the market president for St. Louis and also the director of community economic development. So my market president role is a regional role. My director role is a corporate role. So I have 2 roles. As a Black man, I get to drive corporate strategy at a financial institution. As a Black man, I control the largest market that the bank is in and I get to control or influence tens of millions of dollars. Where do they go? What do we finance? I never thought I would be in this role. I actually wanted to leave banking when I first got in it. But the key to your success is going to be, one, identifying what you are passionate about. And I hope you all write this down. Identify what you're passionate about, because what you're passionate about, you don't need energy to do it. You don't need somebody to force you to do it. It's like you eat, breathe, and sleep that. So work for me is not a job. Last night I worked until 3 o'clock in the morning. I had an 8 o'clock meeting. So I'm working off of 5 hours of sleep, and I'm not done when I get done with you all. I got another meeting at 6:30. I'm not tired at all. I actually have a level of energy now that I'm like riding on a high. So one, your passion will identify your purpose. Your purpose will identify a process that you need to grow and develop, because you're not going to be great at anything just because you say you want to be great at it. So passion identifies purpose. Purpose identifies process. The process is something that you have to commit yourself to and that you have to submit to. What I mean by commit is you got to commit to taking the step, the first step in that process. The submission part is you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. So what do I mean by that? So to grow and develop, if you think about it, as you all have grown in life physically, you probably had some growing pains in your joints. It's probably some mistakes that you made, good decisions, bad decisions. Some of the stuff that you had to do to get to where you're at in school, like you don't like all your classes. Nobody likes all the classes. Nobody likes sitting in class all day. It's some classes that you're in there like, this isn't even relevant to what I want to do when I get out of school, but you got to go through it. That's that part of being comfortable, getting comfortable being uncomfortable, and having the discipline to say, I'm going to identify the process. I'm going to commit to the process. I'm going to submit to it. That is going to change your trajectory of your life to where, oh, now I'm in this space that I'm naturally gifted at it. Now I cultivate and refine my talent, my skill set, so it allows me to be much better at what I'm doing. Now I got to make sure that I have the discipline to commit and submit to the process so I can be the best that I can be. What you're going to find is that it's only a small people in society that are willing to do that. So people talk about wanting to be great. People might look at a position or a role and say, well, hey, I can do that too. I want to do that. Are they willing to pay the price to get there? And you have to ask yourself, are you willing to pay the price to get there? So you can dream big. Dreams that don't become reality, that you don't have a plan, an action plan to actually get there. It's just a dream, and it becomes a disappointment. So you got to ask yourself, one, who do I want to be when I grow up? Who am I supposed to be when I grow up? Because you were born for a reason. You're not just here by happenstance. It wasn't a big bang and all of a sudden you were born. You're here for a reason. What is that reason? That's where your passion comes in. And then that's where that purpose comes in. That's where that identification of process and commitment and submission comes in. So it is some books that I'm going to put in the chat that I'll recommend for you all to read by John Maxwell, and it's also an assessment called Strength Builders that I think would be good for you all to read. Strength Builders will let you know what you're naturally gifted at, like how you're wired mentally. So all of us are wired a certain way. I'm a very strategic and tactical person, and I'm execution oriented, solution oriented. If you talk to me long enough, it'll be like, yeah, that's him. So I try to make sure that I stay in that lane as much as possible and play to my strengths. You also need a path to be able to grow. So you need a roadmap. So what I'm going to give you is what an executive coach gave me that I pay for, that I'm also using with my commercial lenders, that I'm also using with my community economic development team. Now, all of them are adults in their careers. The youngest one is 31. The rest of them are older. I think that, and I also just gifted my sons and my wife those books for Christmas. What I've told my sons is the same thing that I'm telling you. If you find your purpose early in life, you will eliminate the wasting of time and the level of success that you can achieve. You won't even be able to fathom it. You might think you're somewhere right now, and how am I going to get there? You press into this, the level of success that you'll achieve. You'll look back on this conversation and other conversations and be like, wow, I didn't know it was going to do this. So I want to stop talking because it's one more principle. Personal board of directors. So you need folks to have good counsel with, that you can sit down and have good conversations with. So you got to look at your associations. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, because you can't learn anything if you're the smartest person in the room. So you got to place yourself in an environment that's conducive for your growth. You got to be comfortable being stretched, and you got to be comfortable not being the smartest one in the room. Sometimes, folks, it's a discomfort if I'm not the dominant personality in the room. You got to get past that.
Yeah, no, I mean, David, I mean, that was such an amazing story. I mean, starting off with working several jobs and then eventually finding a passion with your uncle, and then especially finding the passion which will lead to the purpose. I mean, entrepreneur from the get-go is what I've been seeing in you, and then it definitely matches in commercial real estate where it's very entrepreneurial, and it's up to you to decide your path and how successful you want to be within the industry.
Exactly. And I get to play with commercial real estate in a whole bunch of different facets, because I get to get a chance to look at a whole bunch of different kinds of deals. And for me, it's like you have the ability to finance this deal that it's affordable housing, or it's senior housing, or it's what have I looked at recently? Like a mixed unit and mixed use property, to where mixed income and mixed use, so different income levels, and then it's residential on the top, apartment units, and then on the bottom it's commercial, and then to see this stuff come to life, to where it's something to see the ground broken and see something built. It's also something to see a building get transformed through it being renovated, to where, okay, it looked like an ugly duckling, now it's a swan. That's powerful, gentlemen.
Yeah, no, Jimmy or Zach, do you have anything to ask David?
Yeah, so I just have a question to ask. So, like, if you can go back in time, right, and what is the one thing that you would say to yourself when you were like, I know, 18 or 20 years old?
I would say, David, I need you to identify your passion so you can identify your purpose, identify the process, and commit and submit to it. That would be one thing. I also would tell myself conduct, conversation, humility, equaling your character will get you further in life than what you could ever imagine. Because literally, those two principles what's gotten me here. Yeah, it's some other stuff around it, Jimmy, but that's what's gotten me here right now. If I'd have been committed at you all's age, where I could be now in my career, I don't even know where I would be. Now I'm 49 and I'm in a market president role. So if you think about it, I've only been in banking 10 years. So I've become a market president from a loan officer, a mortgage loan officer, in 10 years. What that means, guys, one, understand that's not normal. That's not normal at all. I've leapfrogged multiple roles to get to where I'm at. So it's almost like the time has been redeemed for me. But then I think about, man, what if you had a career that, like, when you were 19 or 20 something, you got out of school and you got into the financial industry, and you would have 20 years up under your belt in the space. Boy, would you be a beast right now. And I'm trying to explain that to my sons, and I'm like, come on, I know you're gonna do silly stuff. I did it. I know you want to have fun. You can have fun, but you can also put yourself on the course for a different kind of life if you discipline yourself at an early age.
Amazing. Zach, do you have anything?
Yeah, it's somewhat similar to what Jimmy asked. You mentioned in the beginning of this call that there were certain things we could do at this age to create like a runway to really help us establish a career in our passion, and if that be commercial real estate, like what are some specific things we could be involved in at this age to like help us break into the industry? That be it maybe like a certification program, or should we just mostly focus on getting the highest GPA possible, or is there some sort of entry level position that you think would be more beneficial compared to others?
So your GPA, unless you're an attorney, a developer's not going to ask you what your GPA is. A developer's going to ask you, or some company's going to try to figure out how smart are you, how coachable you are, how malleable you are, how hungry you are. Your GPA only means that you can consume information and regurgitate it. Grad school is way different than undergrad, because you're put in situations to where you got to think through something, and not just consume the information, but consume the information and solve something. And depending on your degree focus, either you're learning a skill set / trade, or it's generality. So you got to figure out, with your degree program, like, all right, what kind of job is this potentially preparing me for? Interning is very powerful. So if you think about it, if I go work at a large company, and the company, let's just say real estate, for instance, commercial real estate. If you go work at a company that they have an intern position open, and what they do is commercial real estate, and it might be the development of it, it might be the management of it, you're looking at somebody that's making probably tens of millions of dollars. They know what they're doing. They have systems and processes in place. That your learning curve, you're actually going to school at your job. So one of my mentors told me to treat the bank like I was going to school, and don't treat it like I'm just getting a check. Man, when he told me that was, it was almost dangerous when he told me that, because I looked at picking the bank apart to where, okay, yeah, because think about it, I was going to school for 9 years and steadily getting promoted. So I was literally taking what I learned in the classroom, and then I would go to work the next day and take theory and methodology and combine them into executing in the market. So that was a unique experience I had as an adult with so much work experience, that I was able to do that. So if you know that you want to do development, if you know that you want to play in commercial real estate, where do you want to be in commercial real estate, not just now, but in the future? And then figure out what companies, what role that you need to be in, and then what companies have that role. And then for you all now, is it somebody, I don't know if you're juniors or seniors, but somewhere where you can actually get an internship or get a job and start learning from somebody that has the model down pat, and it's working. And you literally treat it like you're going to school. It'll be a way better experience than college, because you're getting paid to go to school. And then if you want to if you want to start your own business, you've seen the best in that company, and you can take best practices away, which will help you remove learning curves. Learning curves in business cost money. So the more learning curves that you got, the more money that it costs. No business can absorb huge learning curves. I don't care how much money you got. At some particular point, it's like, yeah, this isn't working, so I need to do something else. So I would suggest that the information that I just put in the chat, go out on Amazon or John Maxwell's website and Google it, and then see what those books are about. And I think you'll get an idea of, just in title, you should get an idea of it. But one, you got to have a roadmap to be able to improve yourself. Two, if you're dreaming, the dream has to be realistic. And then three, you got to understand what your skill sets are. What are your strengths? So that way you can stay focused and operating in those strengths. Because if you try to do something that you don't have, that you're not strong in what you need to be in that particular role, man, that's going to be like pushing a boulder up a mountain.
I mean, amazing feedback. I mean, throughout this entire call, David, and I mean, Does anybody else have a question?
Okay, so I have a question to ask you. What was your like what was your harshest difficulty that you have faced and how you go through that?
What was my say that again, Jimmy? My hardest
So
what?
like what was your what was your worst difficulties that you have suffered, right? And how do you go through that? So
So you're
like
saying the most difficult challenge that I've had,
I mean like what is the
because
like the
you
hardest
got
time?
background noise.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Eh,
So like what was like the hardest time that you've gone through and how did you go through it?
So the hardest thing that I went through and how did I go through it?
Yeah.
Okay. When I first got into banking, quite honestly, I was in meetings. And since I wasn't a banker, I was a loan officer. And since I came in dealing with such high level folks, most of the time I didn't understand what they were talking about. And it was very frustrating because it made me feel like I was unintelligent, and made me feel it messed with my confidence. And one day I was talking to my mother and I was like emotionally upset, and she's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "Mama, I don't understand what they're saying in these meetings." And I said, "I feel lost." And she with a chastisement, she said, "So you're not stupid. You're very smart. So what do you need to do to be able to grasp the concepts when you're in those meetings?" And I said, "You know what? Let me think about this." So I had to figure out how to learn at a very accelerated level so I could participate in these meetings, because the last thing that you want to do when you're in some meetings is you have nothing to contribute. So if you're in the room and seated at the table, you better have something to contribute of value or you won't get invited back. So I started taking copious notes. And if I didn't understand a term or a concept, I would go Google it or ask one of my mentors after the meeting, and I would make sure that I didn't forget that. So I literally learned commercial lending from using that process, because I wasn't a commercial lender. I didn't have that kind of training. So I literally learned how to put deals together by being in the room enough and taking notes and then asking questions to the right people afterwards, and then looking stuff up. So I had to get past that being uncomfortable. And that was probably one of the most uncomfortable times that I'd been. So that was at Midwest Bank Center. When I got to Midland, then I was more comfortable to where if my boss asked me to do something and I didn't know how to do it, I would just say, "Hey, look, you know my background. I don't know how to do what you just asked. I know what you want done. Who do I need to engage to get this done?" So I figured out how to get projects done in the bank by being humble. Remember those things I said: conduct, conversation, humility. I was humble enough to say, "Okay, I don't know how. If you point me in the right direction, I will get it done." So that took a level of humility for me in both instances, to be able to learn something that I wasn't familiar with. And you can't be stumbling around like, "Yeah, I don't know, but I'm not gonna ask anybody because they're gonna think a certain thing." You also got to figure out the right people, your network, the right people, and that's when I talk about that personal board of directors, that you need to be engaging, that it's a safe place for you to where you can ask a question. If you don't know something, they're not going to criticize you. You can get the answer, and then you can actually go ahead and get something done.